All right, it looks like we're up and running here. Hello, everybody. I'm going to try to do. Hello, everybody. My name is Mr. Mojer. Welcome to Project Lead the Way. I'm going to be leading you through some activities about traits and inheritance today. Some really interesting stuff. So let's get started. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Okay, good. It says I'm sharing my screen. So hopefully you see what I see here. So first, let's talk about traits. Well, what are traits? Well, traits are things that we have because of the way that we were when we were born, essentially. So it's not something that you learn to do. It's something that comes just from being the way you are. So one example is attached earlobes. Your earlobe might attach directly to the side of your head, or it might be separated. You might be able to roll your tongue. I can't do that no matter how hard I try. You might have dimples. You see like these kind of indentations in their cheeks when they smile. I do have those. Right-handed, that's pretty common. Freckles, those kind of bumps of color in the skin. Naturally curly hair, which I actually have that, but my hair is kind of too short to see it. Cleft chin, I have that. Allergies. I'm allergic to sulfa drugs, but not to cats. When I put my hands together, let me check. I have my right thumb on top, and I can see colors. Some people are um, colorblind, so they have difficulty in seeing certain shades of color. So those are traits. Those are some things that we're born with. And I want us to learn, well, what exactly are traits and how do we get them and what do they mean? So let's take a look at this video.
We are all unique. Each of us has a combination of characteristics, or traits, that is different from anyone else's. Some traits are easy to see, like eye color, height, and freckles. Others are less visible, like asthma, musical talent, and disease risk. Some traits are inherited, and some are shaped by the environment. Eye color and nose shape are inherited traits. They are controlled by genes, which we inherit from our parents. The language we speak and the music we like are shaped by the environment, which includes our culture, our experiences, and our physical surroundings. Most traits are influenced by both genes and the environment. For example, tall parents tend to have tall children, but height is also influenced by nutrition. And while diabetes tends to run in families, it can be controlled by diet and exercise. Even when someone is born with a body type suited for dancing or playing basketball, it takes training and practice to learn these skills. Together, our genes and our experiences make us who we are.
So our genes, which are given to us by parents, and this is not just for humans, it's like for any animal. So if you have a pet dog or cat, they got their characteristics from their parents. And that kind of makes sense. That's why humans are humans, because our parents were humans, and cats and dogs are cats and dogs because that's what their parents were. Now, one thing that's important is trying to decide what is a trait, meaning what we have because of the way that we were born, and what is a tradition. What might happen just because of where we grew up, or what we learned, or what something was that somebody taught us. So for example, if you have attached earlobes, that is a trait, which means you were born that way. It's not something that you learned or that you were taught. If you have pierced ears, that's a tradition. That's not something that you were born with. Obviously, people don't have metal or jewelry when they're a baby. It's something that comes from culture and fashion, etc. I can roll my tongue. So this one is determined at birth. So that's a trait. Like I mentioned earlier, I can't roll my tongue no matter how hard I try. Maybe you can try it right now. It might be a little hard to see. Maybe you'll need to go look in a mirror or ask someone, but maybe you're able to roll your tongue like this. I can't do it. I like to eat spicy foods. So that's more like tradition. So if you grew up eating a certain kind of food, you probably like it or dislike it. Unless, of course, you have an allergy, which actually could be a trait. I have dimples. Maybe you can check again. Do you have dimples? That's a trait. That's something that you're born with. Even if you pushed into your cheeks for 2 hours, you wouldn't be able to give yourself the trait of dimples. That's something you're born with. I greet others with a smile. Now, that's more of a tradition. That's something that people teach you how to do. I guess you could greet people by frowning at them if people taught you to be a grump or something. My natural hair color is brown. Now, again, that's kind of just determined by what your parents pass on to you. I use dye to change my hair color. But of course, you could use some kind of technology like hair dye or Photoshop to change your hair color. So I want you to go through, if you already haven't, and you can get a piece of paper and a pen for this. And I want you to either write or draw a picture of some of the traits that you have. Maybe hair color, eye color, ability to roll your tongue, dimples, maybe the texture of your hair, is it curly, straight, wavy, whatever. There are tons and tons of different traits. Left-handed, right-handed, taller, shorter, whatever. I want you to record some things that you think are traits. And then I want you to think of some things that are tradition, that were not determined by how you were when you were born. For example, I speak English, but that wasn't determined when I was a baby. No baby comes out just speaking some language fluently. They have to learn from their family members and other people in society. So take a second. You can pause the video if you want. And I want you to make a list. What are some traits that you have, things that were kind of determined at your birth? And what are some traditions, some things that you learned or some things that you're able to change more easily based on your behavior? Okay, so once you're finished with that, now I want us to think about, well, where do we get these traits from? And we sort of talked about this, how we are humans, so we have human traits like, hands, but birds, they don't have hands, they have wings. And that's because we're getting the instructions for hands from our parents, and birds are getting the instructions for wings from their parents. And when something is passed down like that, it's called inheritance. So we inherit different traits. So the color of your hair or your eyes, that's determined by the genetic material that's passed down from adults to babies. And this is not only true of humans, it's true of all, like pets, animals, birds, etc. So let's take a look at this video.
When living things reproduce, they pass DNA to their offspring. Through asexual reproduction, some living things can reproduce without a partner. Offspring made this way are genetically identical to the parent. Other living things, like people, reproduce with a partner. This is called sexual reproduction. Offspring made this way inherit equal amounts of DNA from two parents. Each of us has 2 copies of every gene. The 2 copies may be the same, or they may be different. The combined output from all of our genes influences our inherited traits. When a couple has children, each parent passes down 1 copy of each of their genes. For each gene, which copy is passed along is random, and it may be different for each child. Each child gets a unique combination of copies of all of their parents' genes. This mixing contributes to genetic variation. Because they share genes, children resemble their parents and each other. But unique gene combinations give each individual a unique set of inherited characteristics. Looking farther back in the family tree, the parents' DNA came from their parents. So the children also share DNA with their grandparents. But the amount they share with each grandparent is only half as much as they share with each parent. Looking back to the great-grandparents, the children share DNA with all of them, but only half again as much. This inheritance pattern explains why you have more genes in common with closer relatives like your mom than you do with more distant relatives like your great-grandmother. In this way, your DNA holds a record of your family relationships.
Okay, so this next part is going to be kind of cool. It's like our project for today. So what we're going to be doing is you're going to be making a family, and you can do this on paper and pen. I'm going to be making aliens. You could make dogs or whatever, but I'm going to make an alien here, and this one has 3 eyes and a nose and a mouth, and it has a long body, and it's got its arms here. And then I'm going to make, let's say that one's the dad, I guess. Then let's say we have a mom, and the mom has 2 eyes, and the mom has a nose, and let's say the mom has 2 mouths. And a short body. And arms and legs. So the kind of the traits that the mom has are that 2 eyes, 2 mouths, and a short body. And the traits that the dad has are 3 eyes, 1 mouth, and a long body. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make their child, and I'm going to kind of mix their traits. So I'm going to give it the mom's eyes, and I'm going to give it the dad's single mouth. I'm going to give it the mom's short body. And what I'd like you to do is to draw some imagined creature, or it could be a real creature like a dog. Draw a mom and a dad. Have the mom and dad with different traits, and then make a child where you mix the traits from the mom and dad.